Hello everyone. Today we will explore the book Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. This book not only discusses courage, but also the journey of seeking authenticity and facing the loneliness in modern life. Brené Brown, a renowned researcher on courage and vulnerability, will help us better understand the meaning of belonging to ourselves, overcoming fear, and connecting deeply with others. Let's delve into the profound and valuable lessons that this book offers. Chapter 1, The Quest for True Belonging, opens a journey to explore the concept of belonging. Brené Brown begins this chapter by defining belonging, not just as the feeling of fitting in or being accepted by others, but as belonging to oneself. According to Brown, true belonging occurs when we do not need to change who we are to fit into a particular group. Rather, we dare to stand firm in our own authenticity, even when it makes us feel lonely. Brené Brown emphasizes that in a world filled with division and polarization today, many people find themselves isolated or feeling like they don't belong anywhere. This leads many to easily lose themselves just to be accepted. She writes, "True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are." In this chapter, Brené Brown also explains the difference between the feeling of fitting in and the feeling of belonging. She points out that fitting in often comes with the pressure to please others, while true belonging is when we do not need to change ourselves to please anyone. This requires courage, as sometimes standing firm in our truth means accepting moments of loneliness and feeling lost. Brown shares a profound perspective that belonging to ourselves means being called to stand alone, to brave the wilderness of uncertainty, vulnerability, and criticism. She describes the wilderness not as a pleasant place, but as a challenging space where we must confront fear and uncertainty by not adhering to social norms. However, it is in this place, when we dare to face difficulties, that we will find true freedom and inner peace. Brené Brown emphasizes that the quest for true belonging is not an easy journey, but it is incredibly important. It requires us to confront ourselves and accept every part of who we are. This sense of belonging cannot be found externally, but must be built from within. Only when we truly understand and love ourselves can we connect authentically with others. Braving the wilderness conveys a powerful message about courage and honesty in the journey of seeking belonging. As Brown says, "No one belongs here more than you." Chapter 2, The Paradox of True Belonging, expands on the ideas introduced in the previous chapter and clarifies the contradiction between the need to belong and the unavoidable loneliness that comes from being true to oneself. Brené Brown begins this chapter with an important message. To belong to ourselves, we must be willing to accept loneliness. This is the paradox she wants to emphasize. While everyone craves connection and a sense of belonging, standing firm in our true selves can sometimes isolate us. Brown explains, "True belonging is a paradox. You have to belong fully to yourself, but at the same time, you have to find connection with others." She points out that many people often sacrifice their authenticity to fit into a group, but this leaves them feeling empty because they have abandoned their true nature. True belonging does not require agreement or acceptance from the outside. It demands the courage to live authentically, even if it makes us different. Brené Brown further emphasizes, it's the wilderness of vulnerability and uncertainty that creates true belonging. She compares the feeling of loneliness when we are honest with ourselves to entering the wilderness, where we lack the protection of the surrounding community but is the only space where we can truly find ourselves. Accepting to step into the wilderness means we dare to face the fear of rejection and criticism. But at the same time, we will discover the freedom of being ourselves. Another paradox that Brown analyzes in this chapter is the relationship between connecting with others and self-acceptance. We need relationships to nurture our sense of belonging, but that does not mean we have to betray ourselves to achieve connection. As she states, we can never truly belong if we are betraying ourselves. She also encourages readers to courageously face feelings of loneliness. When we accept that loneliness is a natural part of life and no longer fear it, we can find the deepest sense of belonging within ourselves. This, although difficult, brings a sense of peace and confidence that no external validation can replace. Brené Brown stresses that true belonging is not just a state but a continuous process. Every time we face the choice between holding on to our authenticity or sacrificing it for a sense of belonging, we confront this paradox. And only when we choose ourselves, even if it means facing loneliness, can we truly find true belonging. Chapter 3, High Lonesome, A Spiritual Crisis, addresses the profound experiences of loneliness and spiritual emptiness that many people face in the modern world. Brené Brown examines loneliness not only as a psychological state but also as a spiritual crisis, with powerful impacts on our sense of connection and purpose in life. She begins by discussing what she calls high lonesome, a deep state of loneliness that many feel, even while surrounded by a crowded society. This is not just ordinary loneliness, it is the emptiness felt when one does not belong anywhere or with anyone. Brown describes this state as deep loneliness because it is not easily overcome and can persist, significantly affecting our spirit and soul. Spiritual crisis occurs when we stop believing that we are truly connected to one another in a meaningful way. Brené Brown analyzes that loneliness arises not only from a lack of personal relationships, but also from a loss of faith in humanity's ability to connect on a deeper level. In a world full of division and polarization, many feel disconnected from their communities and even from themselves. This leads to a spiritual crisis where we feel isolated not only socially, but also spiritually and emotionally. One of the powerful points Brown emphasizes is that true connection cannot exist without vulnerability. She writes, "We need to learn to be alone without being lonely, to be vulnerable without feeling weak, and to seek connection even when it's risky." Brown encourages readers not to shy away from loneliness but to confront it courageously. She emphasizes that daring to accept loneliness is an essential step in the journey to find true belonging to oneself. Loneliness can become an opportunity to explore the soul and reconnect with oneself on a deeper level. From there, we can rebuild trust in our relationships and connections with others. Brown also warns against the dangers of fleeing from loneliness by seeking shallow relationships or relying too heavily on external validation. Instead of seeking true belonging, many fall into the trap of fake belonging, making their loneliness even more acute. She writes, "Chasing validation will never lead to true belonging, only deeper isolation." Brené Brown stresses that to overcome this spiritual crisis, individuals need to rediscover their spiritual connection with themselves and with the community. This requires the courage to face loneliness, learn to accept it as a part of life, and seek meaningful connections that are not based on compromise or self-betrayal. Chapter 4, People Are Hard to Hate, Close Up. Move In, focuses on an important message about the connection between people in an increasingly polarized world marked by differences in opinions, beliefs, and lifestyles. Brené Brown emphasizes that when we pull away and maintain distance from others, especially those who disagree with us, misunderstandings and tensions can easily escalate. However, when we move closer, seeking connection and genuine dialogue, it becomes difficult to hate or harbor hostility towards them. Brown begins this chapter by pointing out that increasing polarization in modern society adds to the divisions and isolation we experience. In a social and political environment filled with conflict, we tend to avoid those with opposing viewpoints or even view them as enemies. She writes, "Dehumanizing starts with creating distance between us and others. The more we distance ourselves, the easier it becomes to hate." However, Brené Brown emphasizes that the only way to break the cycle of hostility is to move closer and engage with those who hold different views. When we genuinely approach, see, and listen to others, understanding and empathy gradually emerge, reducing tension and animosity. One memorable quote from this chapter is, "It's hard to hate people when you see them up close, when you hear their stories, and when you understand their struggles." Brown argues that the courage to step closer is not just about creating connections with others. It's also about resisting the polarization and discrimination that society often encourages. In this chapter, she encourages us not to shy away from difficult conversations or ignore disagreements, but instead to confront them. Seeking empathy and understanding in tense situations requires bravery, as it means letting go of defensiveness and being open to being vulnerable. Brené Brown shares a personal story about her experiences when encountering individuals with completely opposing views. Rather than avoiding them, she chose to approach them to better understand the reasons behind their perspectives. The outcome was not a sudden change in mindset, but a deeper compassion and understanding. She writes, "Getting closer requires courage and vulnerability, but it also creates the possibility for connection and empathy." In this chapter, Brené Brown does not suggest that we need to change our views or accept values we disagree with. Instead, she encourages us to find ways to maintain humanity and compassion even in the face of profound disagreements. This means viewing others not only through the lens of difference, but also through the shared aspects of life, such as compassion, love, and vulnerability. Brown issues a powerful call to action. We need to dare to step into spaces where differences are causing polarization and create meaningful dialogues. It is the courage to move closer, to understand, and to empathize that will help us overcome the barriers of hostility and division. Chapter 5. Speak Truth to Bullshit. Be Civil focuses on how we can speak the truth in a world filled with lies while still maintaining respect and civility in our dialogues. Brené Brown emphasizes that in an environment where the truth is often distorted or mixed with misinformation, the courage to speak the truth is essential for building trust and genuine connections. Brown begins this chapter by distinguishing between truth and bullshit, deliberate lies, or misleading information spread to manipulate or mislead. She writes, "Bullshit is a greater enemy of the truth than lies. Lies have a purpose, but bullshit is random and careless." She highlights that bullshit is not just blatant lies. It also includes evading the truth, speaking in circles, or making unfounded statements to create influence. In a society where the truth is obscured by fake news, propaganda, and polarizing rhetoric, defending the truth requires courage and personal responsibility. However, Brown also notes that confronting lies and defending the truth does not mean we must attack or belittle others. On the contrary, she encourages us to be civil and maintain respect in all situations, even when facing viewpoints we disagree with. She shares, "Civility is not about being polite in the face of injustice, but about speaking truth in a way that respects the humanity of others." Brown explains that defending the truth without civility can lead to increased hatred and polarization. Instead of trying to prove others wrong, she suggests that we should focus on communicating the truth clearly and directly, while still respecting others. This means listening sincerely, acknowledging differing perspectives, and seeking solutions based on understanding rather than confrontation. In this chapter, Brené Brown also discusses the importance of taking responsibility for our words and actions. She asserts that speaking the truth is not always easy, but it is part of living with integrity and courage. She writes, "Speaking truth requires vulnerability, but it also builds trust and connection." Brené Brown emphasizes that when we dare to speak the truth politely, we not only uphold our personal values, but also create space for meaningful conversations. This does not mean we should shy away from difficult debates. Rather, we must learn to face them positively and constructively. Brown underscores that courage lies not only in speaking the truth, but also in how we articulate it. Balancing courage with civility helps us not only protect the truth, but also maintain respect and compassion in all our relationships. In a world where the truth is often distorted, Brené Brown encourages us not just to speak the truth, but to do so with kindness and respect for others. Chapter 6. Hold Hands with Strangers delivers a powerful message about unity, connection, and the strength of community in facing personal and societal challenges. Brené Brown emphasizes that in an increasingly divided, isolated, and conflicting world, the search for belonging occurs not only in familiar relationships, but also with strangers, people we have never met, but who share our common humanity. Brown begins this chapter by recounting personal experiences attending community events, such as concerts, weddings, or even quiet moments at memorial services. In these moments, the connection between people, even if fleeting and temporary, can provide a strong sense of belonging. She writes, "There's something profoundly healing about connecting with strangers. In those moments, we are reminded of our shared humanity and the power of collective joy and grief." In this chapter, Brown explains that the feeling of belonging does not only happen in safe or familiar spaces, but can also emerge when we open our hearts to share experiences with others. These moments can occur in public events, volunteer activities, or any circumstances where we can feel a bond with strangers. This is part of a broader sense of belonging that is not solely based on personal relationships, but also on the connection between all of us as human beings. One of the important ideas Brown discusses in this chapter is the concept of collective effervescence, a term coined by sociologist Emil Durkheim to describe the exhilarating feeling when people connect with each other in rituals and community events. Brown uses this concept to highlight that even in moments when we feel isolated or alienated from others, shared emotions like joy, sadness, and hope can draw us closer together. We may not know each other's names, but in those moments we are united by a shared emotional experience. It's a reminder that we are not alone. She also talks about the power of simple actions like holding hands, looking into each other's eyes, or simply being beside another person in silence. These small gestures can provide a sense of connection and a deeper understanding of life. Brené Brown emphasizes that in moments of crisis or instability, reaching out and connecting with others can help us feel less alone and even facilitate healing. Finally, she issues a call to action for her readers. Do not hesitate to open up and connect with those we have never met. In a world filled with polarization and division, solidarity among strangers can create the strength to overcome differences and conflicts. She concludes this chapter by encouraging us to seek unexpected moments of connection with those around us, as these moments can be sources of inspiration and hope in our daily lives. In the wilderness, we need each other. We may feel like strangers, but in truth, we are all part of the same journey. Chapter 6 of the book is an inspiring reminder that no matter how distant the world may feel, the connection with others, even strangers, can bring true meaning and a sense of belonging. Final chapter: strong back, soft front, wild heart. The concept of a wild heart serves as the perfect conclusion to the lessons on courage and the quest for authentic belonging that Brené Brown shares in her book. Throughout this chapter, Brown emphasizes the importance of maintaining inner strength, facing difficulties with resilience while also embracing kindness, softness, and openness in our interactions with others. She encourages us to hold on to our wild hearts, where passion, authenticity, and freedom exist. Strong back, resilience in facing the world. Brené Brown explains that a strong back symbolizes the ability to stand firm, holding our ground against societal pressures and life's challenges. This does not mean being rigid or unyielding, but having the courage to protect our values and confront difficulties without retreating. Brown writes, "A strong back means holding our ground, being steadfast in our beliefs, and showing up even when it's uncomfortable." In confronting societal challenges, Brown emphasizes that maintaining a strong back is crucial to avoid being swept away by fear, doubt, or isolation. In the search for belonging, we may often feel lost, but this is part of the journey. Soft front, softness and connection. While keeping a strong back, Brown reminds us that our hearts must also be soft. A soft front represents compassion, openness, and a willingness to listen to others. She explains that to genuinely connect with others, we must allow ourselves to be vulnerable and empathetic. She writes, "A soft front means we approach the world and others with compassion, openness, and empathy, even when we are afraid." Brown emphasizes that showing softness is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it requires tremendous courage to maintain authenticity and kindness in a world that can often be cold and harsh. To achieve this, we need to learn to set aside prejudices and be willing to view others with compassion and understanding. Wild heart, freedom and authenticity. The wild heart is the final aspect of the philosophy Brown wishes to convey. A wild heart symbolizes freedom, passion, and a connection to our true selves. Brown encourages everyone to seek and protect this free spirit, as it is a source of strength, creativity, and joy. She shares, "A wild heart means staying true to ourselves even in the wilderness and embracing our full, authentic selves with all of our contradictions." Brown emphasizes that when we allow ourselves to be free and wild, we can transcend societal boundaries, the pressure to conform to others' expectations, and discover ourselves on the journey of belonging. A wild heart does not fear differences. On the contrary, it appreciates diversity and embraces the imperfect parts of ourselves. The combination of all three elements. Brown concludes this chapter with the message that to truly find authentic belonging, we need to combine all three elements. A strong back to face challenges, a soft front to connect with others, and a wild heart to maintain authenticity and personal freedom. Each element supports the others, and when we balance all three, we can live an authentic, connected, and meaningful life. Braving the wilderness is about showing up, staying open, and keeping our hearts wild and free. Through this philosophy, Brené Brown encourages readers to seek and protect not only their sense of belonging to a community, but also their sense of belonging to themselves, embarking on a journey of freedom and authenticity in a turbulent world. Braving the Wilderness is not just a book about the search for belonging, but also a journey back to oneself amid a divided and uncertain world. Brené Brown points out that courage comes not only from standing firm in the face of difficulties, but also from opening up. living authentically and deeply connecting with others, even if they may be strangers. Remember, with a strong back, a soft heart, and a wild spirit, we can face the world and collectively build a true sense of belonging. If you find this book valuable, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more great book summaries. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.